Welcome, everyone, to a Thursday edition of Back Your Play with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones, and we are excited to be joined with our giant brother, and who was probably ecstatic Sunday. Our good friend, our gal, Ally Miielnicki, does a wonderful job hosting Nothing But Locks podcast. She gave out props and winners and players, and if you guys didn't follow her on Twitter, and her and Robert, come Sunday, you missed out on some coin, and she's smiling ear to ear because she got to see the Philadelphia Eagles lose in the Super Bowl against Kansas City. What's going on, Ally?
Not too much. It was a close one. I will say at halftime, even when the Chiefs were down by 10, I was pretty confident that they would come back and win. I know there's a lot of controversy over that defensive interference at the end of the game. I think it was the right call. The same thing. I'm being unbiased with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts real quick on that one.
So never in the history of the NFL is it ever written where you can't throw the flag in that situation, right? And I've just kind of thrown it back to the Eagles fans who have been crying all week long, the majority of them. If that calls on Kansas City and the drive, if the Eagles get a fresh set of downs and they kick a field goal and win the game, you're not going to apologize for that. It's unfortunate. We understand the officiating crew, but then I can turn around and say they missed a call on Juju earlier in the game. By rule, by textbook definition, it's a hold. When Bradbury comes out and says, I pulled the jersey, I tugged the jersey. NFL Films has a wonderful shot where he not only tugged, but when the wideout gets spun around like that, it's a penalty. Now, were we robbed of seeing Jalen Hurts get the ball late and try to go down the field? 100%. But they were also up by 10. They had total control of that game going into the locker room. Andy Reid extended halftime. Olsen brought up a great point. Mahomes rested a little bit, recoup, make adjustments, and they were flawless in the second half. They had 4 drives, 3 touchdowns, 1 field goal, and Mahomes, I think, was flawless, 13 of 14 in that section. So listen, it's you tell me that drive to come out of the second half to start the third quarter by Kansas City, as a football fan and a football purist, to me, I'm watching that, and it reminded me of a team that basically said, relax, we've been here before. This is to remind the NFL who we are. And they were the better team on Sunday. And I give the Eagles a ton of credit, man, because like I said, they had control of that game. Hurts played well, the fumble aside. I thought Jalen Hurts, he's a gamer. He's a good quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. And that's a game I think that franchise is going to kick themselves because they had it.
They did have it, and now they just lost their offensive and defensive coordinators. So let's see what kind of team they turn in next year. They have a ton of free agents, particularly on the defensive front. I don't know if they'll be able to bring them all back now that Jalen Hurts has inserted himself into the star caliber level. He's going to want a payday. That's going to drive up the salary cap. You also have Miles Sanders, who I don't think is going to return to the team. Agreed. He's a free agent. I don't know if I see Philadelphia in the same position next year. Obviously, it's a long offseason. Depends what happens. But I will give props to Jalen Hurts. I've been riding him all year. I haven't been as high on him. I thought he played one of the best games he could have played. Obviously, that fumble was crucial. It hurt them in the end of the game. But I even think one of the bigger drives, Rich, was after Kansas City came within 3 points. Philadelphia couldn't convert more than a touchdown, more than a field goal after that. They needed to go up by 2 scores. Once they kicked the field goal, go all the way to only go up by 6. I said to everyone at the party I was like, that's the game right there. They needed that touchdown. So you can say when they needed it most, they couldn't convert in the red zone.
Listen, it's a fair and accurate point. And we talked about the defensive line potentially wrecking the game. We talked about all their defensive players. Where will those guys come Sunday? Sweat, Davis, Fletcher Cox, Hassan Reddick, they were nowhere to be found. You want to talk about the field. Both teams had a play on it. We did well with the player props. Your big hit was Demore, which was an outstanding play. We fell in the form of that. Kelsey, anytime touchdown, not a ton of value. Mahomes under passing yards, hit on that as well. And I think Pacheco I threw out there.
You did.
And he had a big game. And then we were joking, right, with Tony. Wouldn't that have been something if he returned that punt for a touchdown? You're looking at plus 2,500. He's the MVP of the Super Bowl. And I'll say this. It'll be interesting to see in the offseason what they do, right? You lose the coordinators, as you illustrated, and you got 20-something odd free agents. So who's to say they're going to be the same team? They're going to be a good team. Are they going to be a team that wins 14 games? I don't know. That's why we have the whole offseason. But one thing's for sure. If you think about it right now, Mahomes pretty much establishes himself as an all-time great. I thought that was a legacy game for him and Andy Reid. And all the things Andy Reid did to drive Eagles fans crazy years ago, time management, no balance, offensive play calling, he did that brilliantly in the second half come Sunday. So I think Mahomes kind of etched himself right now where, you win one, that's great. You win two, you're immortal.
I agree. And he's still so young. And again, before the beginning of the season, everyone wondered how good the Chiefs were going to be without Tyreek Hill. They didn't need Tyreek Hill. They went right to the Super Bowl without him. He can win with anyone. For years, Brady was the GOAT, saying he doesn't have the top wideouts. He can still win with Julian Edelman, with a Wes Welker. Well, you just saw Pat Mahomes win. I know he has Travis Kelce, but he won with a combination of Sky Moore, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Kadarius Toney. He's great.
Yep. Allen, Mahomes, Burrow right now at plus 700 for MVP for next year. Herbert plus 900, Tua plus 1,200, Hurts plus 1,200. And then I saw Lamar Jackson's numbers at plus 1,600, now plus 1,300. I'm wondering if there's something floating around. I saw you guys, NBL, tweeted, Washington. We talked a little bit about that. I really think they make a push. Now, the other thing is, if Washington hires Eric Bieniemy, I think there's more opportunity now to kind of really make a deep dive into Lamar Jackson. You stick him with Washington in the NFC East, it gets a lot more interesting.
I mean, you could make the case, Rich, if healthy Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the NFC. In the AFC, he has to compete with Pat Mahomes, with Josh Allen, with Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, who's up and coming. Even Trevor Lawrence is up and coming, although I'm not that high on him. But he goes to the NFC, and who's his main competition? Jalen Hurts, Matt Stafford. He's on the downside of his career. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. You could make a case that Lamar Jackson will be the best quarterback in that conference.
Futures right now: Kansas City, Buffalo, Philly, Cincinnati, San Francisco, plus 600, 850, 900, 900 respectively. And then you got the Cowboys in there, plus 1,500. I'm looking at Green Bay, plus 2,500, the Jets, plus 2,500. We don't know what's going to happen with Rodgers. Miami, plus 3,000. The Giants, plus 4,000. And then it keeps going down. I mean, I would probably venture to guess right now, early on, I would have no problem throwing a couple of shekels on Kansas City, because there's no reason to believe they can't get back to the Super Bowl next year.
That's true. You just don't get the value. When I look at futures bets, I look at value. One team that I've loved all year, last year, and everyone rode me against it at the beginning of the year. They said I was crazy for picking the over in their wins, but that was the Detroit Lions. I loved the Lions going into last year. I love them even more going into this year. They should have been a playoff team. They got hosed because of the officiating in that Seattle Seahawks Rams season finale. I think they would have been a surprise of the postseason. I really like this team a lot. They're getting even better this offseason. They're going to bolster the defense. They have a healthy Jameson Williams now going into next season to go along with Amon-Ra. I'm all over the Lions with that futures bet.
Plus 2,500. But I'll ask you this though, Ally. I'm not 100% confident on Goff to kind of put up the numbers that he put up last year. And they got to fix the defense. They can score. They can score 30, 35 points. 2,500, that's not a bad play. Where's your guess when Aaron Rodgers decides to come out of his slumber? I am leaning towards Aaron Rodgers retiring.
That's a good case to make. I think Aaron Rodgers comes back one more season. I don't think he's going to hang it up getting beat by Detroit at home and ending their postseason hopes. I just think he's going to make one last run. I think he's going to see what the Packers do with the NFL draft, see who they sign during the free agency period. I think then he'll come out of his shell. Who knows? Maybe he's making calls around the league to some of the guys that are free agents, trying to recruit them. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So I'm going to give Aaron Rodgers one more year to come back. And then if the Packers totally have a terrible year, I think he hangs it up. But he does have hope. He did establish good rapport with Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs toward the end of the season. I think that offense is up and coming. So I think he'll roll it back another year.
Wow. See, I think he either retires or he plays with another team. I don't believe, I think it's done in Green Bay. And quite frankly, I think they're probably getting tired of it because it has that Favre-esque kind of stink to it. And remember too, the Jets traded for Favre in 2008. They were 3-3. Then they went 8-3. They beat the Titans. Then they lost a bunch of games, including a bad loss to Denver. They finished 8-8. His arm He had the issues, and then he goes to Minnesota. Like, buyer beware. Favre was 39 at the time. Rodgers is 39. He's lost a little bit of the fastball, and I don't think he's going to be able to handle a New York market. I mean, think about this for a minute. He goes on McAfee the other day, right? The weekly spot, which we know he gets paid a lot of money for. And, you know, he's got a problem with NFL insiders, whether it's Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter, for talking about when he's going to go on this retreat. He's getting like snippy about it. If you're going to open yourself up to your personal life and your affairs, then we're allowed to react to it. So I think teams are starting to get turned off by the act. That's what I'm saying. So this whole, everyone's going to be pitching Aaron Rodgers. I just don't know. I don't know if this is you have to go out and get this guy, the risk to reward. I think that's got to be played. I think you got to weigh that in.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's much of a market for him. I think the best opportunity would have been if he wanted to go to San Francisco. It doesn't look like Brock Purdy's going to be ready for the season. He might miss all of next season. I think you go to San Francisco where you're already a Super Bowl ready team, finish your career there. You were a big fan of them growing up. They snubbed you during the draft, but otherwise I don't see an ideal opportunity for him anywhere else. So I don't see him wanting to start with and tarnish his reputation with a team like the Jets. Again, like you said, you look what happened with Brett Favre there. And I don't know if I'm a team like the Raiders rebuilding, if I want to bring him on instead of get someone younger that I could really grow with. Josh McDaniels, he isn't known for really being a good head coach for his quarterbacks. Look what he did with Jay Cutler. Derek Carr regressed in the lone year he had with them. I know Josh McDaniels will always be tied to Tom Brady, but as a head coach, he doesn't really have a great track record with quarterbacks.
Yeah, those are fair points. All right. I know I got you for a couple more moments. Anything stands out, NBA, hardwood, college hoops that you're looking at that you guys maybe have broke down or you're going to be breaking down? I mean, a lot of top 25, we're seeing a ton of upsets in college basketball of late.
Well, college basketball, again, this is the time of year I really get into it. I mentioned before the show, I had Tennessee covering -3 over #1 Alabama last night. It was an upset considering the AP rankings, but in Vegas, it wasn't an upset. Tennessee won. I think you're going to see a lot of upsets. The field is wide open. Rich, it's been wide open ever since this one and done rule has come up. It's not like the college basketball I knew to grew and love, where you could root for a player on Duke, like a JJ Redick, or with UNC, Tyler Hansbrough for 4 years and watch them grow and blossom and then in the NBA. So with this, it's just wide open. You're going to see a lot of Cinderella teams. I still don't have a good, I can't pin it who I like as a favorite yet. I've been watching some UConn. I really like UConn. I'm a Big East buff, so Marquette had a nice win last night. But going on to the NBA, I just don't know. I don't know if anyone could beat either the Bucks or the Celtics. Those are my two favorites to win the championship. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, your point on college is 100% accurate. And I look at a team like Purdue that really has their one player in Eddie or Edie, depending upon how everyone pronounces his name, the big time center, should be player of the year. They're very one-dimensional. You've got your other teams out there, as you kind of illustrated with Alabama getting pinched. Purdue lost to Rutgers. We saw Houston lose to Temple. So it's kind of wide open. I always look at the guard play come March Madness. As far as the NBA, I still maintain that, to me, Milwaukee and the Boston Celtics with Tatum and Brown and Horford, they're the most balanced and complete team in the Eastern Conference. I am not going to jump on Phoenix because of the move for Kevin Durant. I'm not. I think that's just recency bias. Everyone's looking at KD, and we've seen Phoenix wilt in the past. We saw it again last year in the playoffs in the NBA Finals. Curry goes out now, so it is a little more wide open, Denver and Memphis. So I can maybe see one of those teams coming out of the Western Conference. I still think it's going to be Boston, Milwaukee, as you mentioned. I can't buy into the Utahs or the Phoenix. I can't. And some of these other teams are going to start to come back down to earth, right? Sacramento is going to come back down to earth. Cleveland's going to come back down to earth. The Sixers, it always goes by the health of Embiid, right? So I don't know. And last night, I loved the Cavs. I was getting 3.5 buckets. It was 6.5. They covered, right? I mean, so they lost by 6. NBA is tough, man. NBA, I get scared sometimes. Yeah, because you get these games and you get the backdoor 3 or you get the foul shots at the end of the game. It drives you crazy.
That's the beauty of college basketball, though. Always take those overs because you'll get it in the last 2 minutes at least 20 free throws on each team and cash that in right there. But yeah, going back to the NBA, when I heard the news that Kevin Durant went over to the Suns, it didn't changed my opinion whatsoever. On paper, should they be favored to go to the finals? Yes, absolutely. You have Kevin Durant, you have Devin Booker, you have Chris Paul, but you have two players that are so injury prone over the past few seasons. It's not even funny with Kevin Durant and Chris Paul. And Devin Booker has even been banged up the last few seasons as well, missing some time in each. So for me, I think if I'm looking at the Western Conference, I really like the Grizzlies squad. I really like what they've done. I love the Nuggets. I've always been a Jokic fan. I'd like to see them get there. You know, they're obviously the favorites, but I definitely don't see Phoenix. I don't see Dallas. I don't know how well Luka and Kyrie are going to play together. And I honestly just think Kyrie's a cancer wherever he goes. So I think you're going to see a combination of either Denver, Memphis versus either Boston or Milwaukee.
Yeah, I can agree to that. Again, Ally Miielnicki joining us, host of Nothing But Lux podcast on Twitter. Check them out, NBL podcast. I got episode 103, NFL quarterback carousel. Yep. You and Robert break it all down. You go through the top free agent quarterbacks, mid-level talent. So let me throw this out to you right now. I'll give you Carr, Winston, Mayfield. Ugh, man, it's getting worse. Darnold. We know about the big ones, right? Lamar and Aaron Rodgers, but Carr and Winston. I think Winston, there's going to be a home for Jameis Winston, right? I don't know about Baker Mayfield. I was talking to my buddy in New York, and he's like, "I'll take him as a bridge quarterback for the Jets."
I was thinking more of like Indianapolis. Indianapolis, I think 100% is going to trade up and get that number one spot. Yep. I think they're going to draft Bryce Young. Mayfield's never going to have a lower dollar sign attached to his name. I think the Colts bring him in for 1 year, let him play for a few games until Bryce Young takes over. So I see Indianapolis as a destination for Baker.
Nice. All right, everyone out there, again, check out the pod. You can check it out on Spotify. These guys do a great job. They got some good thoughts on the NFL, offseason, NBA, college, as Ally mentioned, at NBL Podcast. She is giddy on this Thursday because she realizes she does not have to listen to this crap for the next 6 months. It was a gorgeous day in Parade, but not in Philly, as opposed to Kansas City. So
I would have been, I don't even know if Eagles won, how I would have reacted to that. I probably would have had to take another shot at the end because there was a good amount of Eagles fans at the party that I was at. But to see them storm out at the end of the game, that's the thing about Eagles fans. They don't take losses well at all. They stormed out, the league's against them. That was a BS call. And it was like, come on, dude, just you guys, you blew a 10-point lead. Like, that's what it comes down to.
Very, very, very thin skin, dish it out. And I would say for the most of them can't take it. The ones I know, family members and some of my friends, they've dealt with it, even though some of them kind of went into hiding. I'm curious, when they lost, did you kind of chuckle and you just kind of made yourself, you just kind of left the environment that you were at, or were you just like, all right, listen, I know it's very emotional right now. I'm going to keep the comments to myself.
Yeah, it was a mix of both. For the most part, I kept the comments to myself. I think the only thing I kept reiterating was that was a fair holding call. That it was a clear hold. I don't care how nitpicky it is. It's a hold. And then you have the conversely, if they don't call that, the Chiefs fans are going to be up in an uproar saying that it should have been first down. They should be able to run the clock out. And right. That's what it is. So you can't have it both ways. The Eagles, I kept telling them to, you guys got lucky with the Devonta Smith catch the week prior to that. That would have been 4th and 3. That was 4th and 3. It would have been first down for the Niners near midfield. So you can't have it both ways.
Just keep.
I was civil about it. I was civil, but I was wearing my Daniel Jones jersey and ready to see some Danny Dimes this season.
All right, absolutely. We're only another 6 or so months away. All right, next week, NBA, college hoops. We'll start diving into that. And, in another month or so, start to look at some MLB futures as well. I'm going to start to look at some win totals with these teams, overs and unders as well. All right, Ally, appreciate you jumping on a Thursday edition of BYP.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rich.
You got it.